hype. And when everything's great, it's really not. And when everything's bad, it's really not. You have to evaluate these weeks for really what they are. You know, even though we've been winning, we certainly know that it hasn't been great and that we're just this unstoppable team, and we have to play good. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Now joined by Fox NFL analyst Eric Mangini. Good morning.
Morning.
Now, knowing that you were Belichick's right-hand man after this loss, how concerned are you about the Patriots?
Well, I think Tom just encapsulated the Patriot way in a very short few sentences. You don't get too high, you don't get too low, and even when things are good, they're not really good, and there's issues. And you look at last game, and it wasn't consistent with the way that they do things. To have the encroachment penalty on the fourth down, which sets up the touchdown, then you've got Edelman's fumble, and then you got Tom Brady's interception, which really is completely uncharacteristic because he just kind of threw it up there, and to be out to lose the emotional game early in that as well. But all those things are not in line with the way that they do business. Now, that being said, the problems they have are real. The problems they have on the offensive line, those are real, and they're not going away. And they really haven't faced anybody in that first part of the season, except maybe for the Browns, that could create problems. And you saw the Browns had a chance to win that game if they could have gotten out of their own way. And then now you go to Baltimore and you see the issues they have there, losing their tight end. Gronkowski's one component of that, but then you lose Mike Devlin, the tight end / fullback, not having a consistent kicker. Tom's ability under pressure this year has been down substantially in terms of completion percentage. They're running the ball for almost a yard less than they historically have. They're going to struggle, and there's going to be a lot of hurdles for them to overcome, especially over the next 4 or 5 weeks where they've got really challenging opponents, totally different than what they saw in the early part of the season. And this team is going to have to evolve like they traditionally do to fix the problem, and not fix the problem, but to continue to disguise the problems that they inherently have.
Well, I was always concerned because I don't think the offense has played, with the exception, Skip, of the first game, Pittsburgh. I don't think the offense has really played particularly well. The defense has been outstanding, but my question was always, E-Man, who have they played? They played very marginal quarterbacks, and they've taken full advantage of that. I think the thing that will concern Coach Belichick, even though they gave up 7 yards a carry against Cleveland, he was like, we was more concerned about the passing game. And so you hitting us up at the end of the game, you're running draws and things of that nature. The Ravens rushed for 210 yards when you know that's what the Ravens want to do. So that's what's going to be most upsetting with him. He prides himself. He loves, and you know this, Coach, he loves big linebackers. You play two gap because you want to shut down the run. And they ran whenever they want to. They got as many yards as they wanted to. And this is what's going to be concerning to him. He likes guys that can set the edge. Well, when Lamar Jackson wanted to turn the edge, he got the edge. When whatever Mark Ingram, whatever he wanted, he got. That's what's going to be upsetting with him. And like you said, they got some teams that can pose this offense, this defense, some problems moving forward. The Cowboys, because they can run it and they can throw it. The Eagles, it will be a problem for them when they come off this bye week. That's going to be a problem. So they have some teams that can exploit some of their weaknesses. And you have a team, the Cowboys, and the Eagles somewhat can get after you. Now, and I've told Skip this, Tom has not played as well as Tom would have liked to play. I think sometimes we get enamored with whether they're 8-0 or they're 7-0, and Tom Brady's the quarterback. But if you look at his play has been down from where it was the last several years. And there's no way to skirt that. And when you can't run it, Skip, it's kind of hard to hide your quarterback with some of the flaws that he has, especially in his later years. He's still Tom Brady. But when you can't run the football and you can't protect him, you're setting yourself up, you're asking for trouble.
So all year you sat in that chair last year and said, Tom Brady is in dangerous decline. And I'm going to remind you of some of the losses they suffered. At Jacksonville was embarrassing. They lost at Detroit. Remember that? They blew the game in the end on the last play at Miami. They went to Tennessee and just got blown off the field. They got embarrassed at Tennessee, and they did lose at Pittsburgh. So there are a whole bunch of losses going on where you're over there just saying, boy, I'm not seeing the same Brady anymore. And then all of a sudden, it got late in the year, and they clicked, and all of a sudden...
What else clicked?
They led the league, the playoffs in rushing with Sony Michel, who right now is either banged up, or slumping or in Bill's doghouse. Something's wrong with him because he doesn't even remotely resemble what he was during the playoffs last year. That has a lot to do with an offensive line that you can just patch up so many times, and even the great Dante Scarnecchia can't work his magic when you just don't have enough ability. When you lose a potential Pro Bowl left tackle, a first-round pick in Isaiah Wynn, and you lose the anchor of that line, that center, David Andrews, who might not be a Pro Bowler, but he is the guts and the brains of that offensive front.
Well, they were counting on Isaiah Wynn to come back, especially after letting Trent Brown, because Trent Brown had an unbelievable season last year, and he parlayed that into big money going to the Raiders. And so now you lose a left tackle, which is the most important position for.
Would you say he's one of the hugest human beings
He's
you've ever seen?
gigantic. But you figure it's Nate Soldier, it's Trent Brown, it's Isaiah.
All right.
This is their fourth left tackle.
Yes.
And then the center, losing him was huge. And then when you talk about Mike Devlin did a lot of different things.
He did a lot of damage.
But the kicker,
yeah, I know.
The kicker is a big issue.
You got 2 decades of great kicking with Vinatieri and Gostkowski, and now you've had 2 in the last 2 weeks.
And those Super Bowls that we won were all defined by tremendous kicks. And now you're in a situation where you don't know whether it's going to go in or not, and you've got to make different decisions.
Yes.
But 33%, where over the last 3 years it was about 49%. So that's been dramatically different too.
But he's been under pressure more than ever.
He has been under pressure more than ever, and that's an issue. Now, the saving grace is whether it's N'Keal Harry or Ben Watson or Mohamed Sanu, as they take these pieces and these pieces get better within the system, they'll continue to get better. And that's the difference between New England and everybody else, is they're not going to beat themselves traditionally. Now, Baltimore, we saw some mistakes that you don't usually see, so that's the starting point. And they're going to continue to get better, and they'll do a great job of disguising and protecting their weaknesses and exploiting everybody else's weaknesses.
Right.
And that's where the league tends to fall off, especially late in the season, because they can't keep up with a team that consistently makes progress, even if it's marginal, like New England does.
But when I look at New England's coach, correct me if I'm wrong, it gets harder to consistently have to go 12, 13, 14 plays to get the ball in the end zone because they don't have big play. Gronk was a big play. You know, he could go 30, 40 yards. Now, is Edelman move the stick? Mohamed Sanu move the stick. Throw it to James White out of the backfield, move the stick. Coach Belichick makes teams drive length of the field. I feel if I make you go consistently 13, 14 plays, you'll make a mistake before you get the ball in the end zone. Well, that's what happens with New England because they don't have quick strike or big play capabilities. Now they're forced to move the ball 12, 13, 14 plays. And it gets hard. I don't care who you are. It gets hard to consistently win games like that when you got to string together all these drives when other teams can hit you with 1 or 2 big plays.
And N'Keal Harry, the first-round pick, and I think he's going to be a stud receiver for them. He's played 0 snaps so far this year, and I thought he was going to play Sunday night, and he did not see the field. So all of a sudden, they've added Mohamed Sanu. I don't know what your eyes told you. I didn't see separation burst from Sanu.
But that's not what he is.
Yeah, and look, but he had, 10 catches?
Yeah, he targeted him a bunch.
So he had a ton of production. It won't matter whether he gets a separation. It'll just matter whether he's in the right spot consistently, which is something that he'll do. And it's the same thing with Julian Edelman. It's the same thing with Ben Watson. The people being in the right spot, Tom will make the right decision. And as long as you got people in those spots who can then execute on the ball that he throws, usually they're gonna be productive. And Sanu fits the formula so perfectly because he's a good guy, he's a hard worker, he's reliable, he's consistent, he's all those things that you want that typically is never available midway through the season.
Okay, now to the other problem. That historical pace defense, that front, the last 2 games, it looks smallish to me. It looked like it was getting bullied by 2 offensive lines. Cleveland's, because the Cleveland went for 159 yards rushing. It was in a driving rain. And then definitely Sunday night, they got blown off the ball a bunch of times. And obviously Lamar's a special talent, and he's hard to contain for any defensive front. But I thought it looked extremely vulnerable to stopping the run.
Well, it's so interesting because for years they were a 34 defense, and that's all Bill played. And then he realized that there's some value to playing a 4-3 and getting beat by the Giants the way they did. So they transitioned, which to me is the greatest. You can change something that you've done for 25 or 30 years because you think something else is better. Now that he's calling the defense, there's a lot more 34 showing up. And that's going to take some time to get consistently good at because they had transitioned out of it. So you're seeing more of what Bill has historically done as opposed to what they've done over the last few years. There's going to be some growing pains involved that. The other thing is there's a lot of man-to-man defense, and when you're in man-to-man defense, you don't get the run support from the outside players. So I imagine they'll start incorporating some more zone to offset that. They've had a decent amount of pressure. The main thing is there'll be a problem, and they'll address the problem, and they'll keep addressing the problem, and they'll keep addressing the problem.